Hello and welcome to United Real Estate Business Planning Guide and Training. So I'm going to actually take you through the PDF rather than taking you through the slides. And I added a few pages in here that are pages that I have created that I use in my planning. So I'll guide you through all of it. I'm just going to kind of walk you through everything and just talk about it. And what I want you to do is work through it the best you can and make notes of any questions that you may have. And feel free to, once you've completed as much as you can, and gone through the whole planning guide, that you save your questions for a time that you can give me a call and maybe schedule a one-on-one consultation with me, and we can go over the questions as well as help customize it to meet your needs. So, business planning guide with United. You're an entrepreneur, so you need to make sure that you set your own intentions, get focused, and take action. So we're going to go through your why, some budgeting, financial goal, and contacts. And then we're going to go through marketing, training, accountability, and inspiration. I already mentioned inspiration, but that's key to your success. Hopefully, I will motivate you to be inspired to take action and be successful. So, step one, your why. Some of you may have completed an exercise like this. Some of you may have read the book Think and Grow Rich, who talks about defining your purpose. So, what are your life's aspirations? What do you really want? What's important to you? What is your why? So, what I'd like you to do is take some time to write out your why, and don't think too much about it. Use the space. If you're ever taken a writing class and you just free write, take time just to write out your thoughts. Don't think too much about it. Write it down, whatever comes to mind. Try to dig deep into your heart and what's important, what drives you. Okay, so hopefully you had enough time to write that out. If you haven't, you can easily just go back to it. I really wanted to make this quick, smooth, and then have you work on the process as best you can and then come back to it as needed. So hopefully your why resonates with your priorities in life, what's important to you, your driving factors, your driving forces. And that's your starting point. Your why is your big picture, your end in mind, your vision. And that's what's going to motivate you and really help you get inspired. And the next step would be working on your goals, identifying SMART goals. And these goals will come from your motivations, your why, but also will come from your value areas, things that are meaningful to you, categories, areas. I call them value areas. And I'm actually going to ask you to go through a value area process. Uh, I go into more detail in another planning system that I have, but I'm going to keep it simple and just add some things to this business guide, this planning guide that will help you. So when you're thinking about what you want to accomplish in say 2021, you have to identify your value areas, and a lot of that comes from your why. So what I've created is a value circle with you in the middle. You are the driving force, and each one of those circles is value area. And what you want to do is fill each circle. I mean, you don't have to have all 7 filled out, but 7 usually is typical. If we go back up here to the ones here, there's 6: career, financial, health and fitness, family, relationships, dreams. Um, some instead of career, put business. You might have recreation, travel. Uh, they're really your values. So you could use this list, or you can create your own, use some of it, add some of it. So why don't you take a minute and fill in the circles with your main value areas. Okay. So hopefully that was enough time. If it wasn't, again, please go back to it and finish it. This shouldn't be rushed by any means. I'm just rushing the process to kind of go through everything. And then you can take as much time. You can rewind this, replay it. Just want you to get through it at your own pace. I just want to show you what's here. So if you identified all your values in this value circle, now you have a good idea, a good foundation of what your why is, what your value areas are, and those value areas are going to determine what you're going to do this year. You're going to build your goals based on your values. And here's another kind of thought starter process in the planning guide that will help you identify some things that you desire. What do I dream of having? What do I dream of being? A little deeper. What do I dream of doing? And what do I dream of learning as well? But just take a minute and jot down some things that you're wanting in these areas. Okay. So hopefully you got a good list there. And again, these are more, in my opinion, of like thought starters, things that kind of coincide with your values and you can build on. A lot of this stuff you're going to really uh, work on in some other tools that I have for you. There's also going to be a lot of other stuff that you probably will fill out and then table and then come back and then fill in the rest as you go. Usually, when I do my planning, I do my planning over a good 2-3 weeks because I set it down and then I get back to it when I feel I'm at my creative best or I'm at my highest energy. So this is another tool that I use that I've created. It comes from my background in training and development, and we used to use this term brain dump and this tool to really get all this stuff that we have to do go out of our minds and on a piece of paper so we get structure. It's not just up there and then all of a sudden, oh man, I forgot to do this, forgot to do that. This is a tool that will help you get it out and then you will implement it into your plan. And you want to take these things and some might be immediate, or you can do them over the next week or two or by the end of the year. Some might be big projects or goals that you want to carry over to next year. One thing you don't want to do is take this list and then just try to have a vertical list. I don't know if you ever heard of the process horizontal planning, but horizontal planning is when you take a vertical list and then you separate it and spread it out horizontally over multiple days and weeks and sometimes even years. It could be some big projects that there's no way you can accomplish it in 1 year. So this is just an area you can come back to this over and over and over again. Use this tool all the time. We get so busy and we get inundated with so much stuff that we need to reflect and sit down and take all this stuff that's up in our minds and get it down, because it releases stress from forgetting. Oh man, I forgot to do that again. This will help you get more focused and be more intentional. So, what you want to do with this is take into consideration maybe things that you didn't accomplish in this year, okay? And just write them down. Don't worry about what order they're in. Just write, put something in there, whatever the action item is, the to do. Could be just a simple task. It could be a project. Could be a goal. It could be some big project that you want to accomplish, or a goal that maybe you didn't accomplish this year, but you know why you didn't. You had other things that came up, and you want to continue that into 2021. So just write all that stuff down. And then what you're going to do is, and you'll go through and kind of prioritize the stuff. You'll if you look at the boxes there, P stands for priority, action, goal is what the task is. Um, T stands for a task, so it might be a simple task, and G stands for goal. So you can check the box and say, oh, this is just a task, so you know that it's something that you can get done in the next week or two. But if it's a goal, it's something you want to write out and break down the other action steps involved, and then spread them out. And then when is it due? You might, if it's a goal, you might have a due date of March 31st. And if it's an action step, you might have a due date of next Friday. So use that to identify when you want to get it accomplished. Not to say, hey, I need to do all this today. That's what the problem is. That's the vertical planning. And I think we keep too much in our heads, and now we put it on paper and we can spread it out. And then notes and reflection, just add some more detail to this. If it's a goal, you can write out some more detail to it. Reflection might be, oh, it was a goal I had this year, but I didn't accomplish it, and this is why. And then DA stands for date activate. This is where you're going to put it in your planner, your calendar, your whatever system you use. If you use your phone or your computer, put it in your Outlook calendar. You can put it in your Google Calendar. Uh, I use a paper-based system along with my phone, and also sync it with my computer. So I have it all synced, but I like using paper still. It allows me to be more focused. So what I'm going to do is give you a few minutes to um, fill some things out here. And again, this is something you can go back to. So go ahead. Okay. So I imagine you probably have a lot more to add to this. So again, this is something that you can go back to. I've been going over and adding stuff to mine over the last 2, 3 weeks. And then I'm identifying how big of a project it is, or if it's just a quick task that, I'm not saying how I'm going to put it all on tomorrow, all these tasks. Again, horizontal planning, spread it out. If you use Google Calendar, they have a task feature, and you can set these up as tasks. If they're time specific, or if you want to just time block, then make it an appointment and put it in your calendar. So, and again, I'm here to help you, and we can talk about time management. That's my background, before I started real estate. So I'd be happy to help you, give you some good tips and advice. So let's move on. So we talked a little bit about goals, and one big thing with goals is you want to make sure that they are SMART goals. Uh, there are different acronyms they use, but this one, what they touch on is being specific, and that's usually common across the board. And then measurable. Measurable, making sure that you can measure the steps along the way, to identify successes. And then attainable. Um, is it attainable? Um, by, you set a goal that's maybe too difficult. You might want to reassess. Not to say you shouldn't push yourself, but you got to be realistic. And then R, stands for relevant, and it also can stand for realistic. Make sure it applies to what's important to you. In this instance, your why, your value areas, and then timed or trackable. Make sure there's a deadline. Uh, you always have to have a deadline to complete the goal, and be realistic with that as well. Don't say, "Well, I'm so hungry. I got like 10 goals I'm going to do and have them done by January 31st, 2021." Uh, that's 10 goals in a month. They better be simple, and typically if you have that many, they're probably more like tasks or small projects. Goals would be things that you want to accomplish within maybe I'd say 90 days to 6 months, and maybe that might be a year-long goal. By the end of 2021, I'll have this many transactions, or I've built a database of this many names by the end of the year. So use this to your advantage to make sure the goals are smart. So this is another worksheet that I've created. Uh, this comes from my background again in training and development. But what I've done is I've tried to simplify the process where you can take the the why, your value, what's important to you, what are those value areas, and then what you're going to do is you're going to put that value area right at the top of this worksheet, and you're going to say, this is my value area. It's career, and then your value statement. And we haven't talked about value statements, but a value statement is like a mantra or an affirmation, or a directive that really is attuned to your value area. So, great example would be, and I've learned this from one of my coach mentors, Joe Stump, and he talked about when you have mantras or things that you desire, value areas that you want to start out with, I love the thought, because your mind, if you're too direct and say, I will have this, your mind can step in and sabotage you. So I've always used, I love the thought. Not always, but I started using it more just because it does relax the mind. It kind of lets that sabotage go, where you can say, I love the thought. So if we had a career value area, and I love the thought of recruiting 50 agents uh, to my brokerage that are like-minded and are willing to participate within our culture. That would be my value statement. Okay. I love the thought of having 50 agents that are like-minded to be part of our culture. So your value statement, whatever it is, it comes from you, it comes from your heart. But maybe think about, I love the thought. You don't have to. You can say, I will have this many agents, um, and make it more direct. So it's really up to you. And then once you get that filled out, then you're going to write your goal out. Be specific. So if my value statement is to have 50 agents, or maybe my value statement is just to have good quality agents, then I don't really assign a number to that. And then my goal would be, I will recruit 50 agents by the end of 2021 by being diligent with my recruiting efforts throughout the year and being disciplined. So it's specific, 50 agents by the end of the year. It's trackable, it's realistic, relevant. Um, is it attainable? Is it realistic, attainable? I mean, yes, I've seen it done. Um, but again, I'm just throwing out an idea. Maybe 30 agents, but and is it measurable? Yes, it's measurable because I put in there that I will be diligent and with my recruiting efforts. So those are some measures of success along the way. How am I doing with it? Am I being diligent? And then from there, you're going to take your value area, your value statement, and your goal. And then you're going to take your goal and you're going to break it down. You're going to break it down into bite sized pieces. So your goal is big. So my goal is recruiting. So my primary task. What is my primary task? Well, I'm going to set up a database. Okay. What's the related task? Well, I have to get the names. I have to input them and I have to categorize them. So all these little steps along the way. And so primary task, related task. Now, little secret, don't prioritize them yet. Just write your primary tasks. And what I do is I usually write a primary task and then leave about 4 or 5 spaces and then write another primary task, so on and so forth. And then I go back through and put the related tasks. And then once you do that, you're moving over to what I will need: money, people, equipment. So, okay, Exceed costs us $125 a month. Market View is another program where I'm going to get all the names. That costs us $130 a month. So I have all this information that I'm going to get and what the cost is, and then maybe I need people involved. So John and I are going to split the duties of contacts, and then we're going to put the start date. Okay, you might want to put a due date before the start date, but you definitely want a start date. So when is the start date? So after you fill out the primary task, related task, and what you'll need, then you'll prioritize. So you put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and again, they're not in that order when you list them. And then you'll decide, when am I going to start this one? And then when's it going to be due? And then I always like to do a time estimation, time required. So maybe Exceed, building the database might need, you know, it might need 3 hours, it might need a whole week. So I usually try to put like hours in there so I know how many hours. So it might take 3 hours for that, 2 hours for this, and then just list all that, because then you'll have a clear picture of how much time you're going to be spending on this. And then date activate. Remember that from the brain dump. You're going to date activate. Okay. You're going to write down the date that you put it in your system, your calendar, Google, Outlook, paper-based system, your phone, whatever you use, you date activate it. Make sure you write that down when you did it, okay? And that would be your goal. And so I'm not going to have you fill this out right now because this is more detail. I want you to go back to this. You're going to table this because what I want you to do is go through the rest of the program. So I've kind of touched on some things that are really important, and really kind of dug a little deeper into you know your heart and emotion and what's important to you. And now we're gonna talk more about the nuts and bolts and the your budget. And I'm just gonna go through this, and kind of just talk about these different areas. I'm not going to have you fill this out now either. I want you to fill this out because you're going to have to get all your financials and put this together and write it out. So you'll want to have that all prepared and ready. Okay. And then you sit down with it. And again, take this over, a few days and put it away and then come back to it, put it away and come back to it. But you want to get it done before the end of the year so you hit the ground running in the beginning of the year. Okay. So this is really a budget worksheet. You're going to go through and you're going to put in, this is a sample, and you're going to put in your actual. Okay. Fill in every blank that it pertains to you. And then at each end of each one, you're going to see total expenses, total transportation expenses, total health expenses, total financial obligations, all your credit cards, your auto, if you have student loans, total vacation expenses, okay? Recreation expenses. These kind of touch on some of those value areas, right? And then your personal expenses, clothing, books, other things that are more personal to you. miscellaneous expenses, and then your personal budget summary. So you're going to take all those that you totaled up at the bottom here, and now you're going to put those in each space. So this is the summary, and then you have your total expenses. Now this is the one that's going to be like, that's painful to look at, okay? And maybe it gives you an opportunity to cut back on some things, okay? You can shave the budget, okay? So once you're done with that, you're going to want to probably look at your real estate expenses. These are your business expenses, okay? And this form doesn't have everything completed, and I'll also send you the actual spreadsheet. There's a couple of spreadsheets I will send with you with this video, or email it to you, and it's actually an Excel spreadsheet that you can actually just input it and it'll calculate it all for you. So you can just go through and identify all your business. So you can see this is time consuming. You're going to have to spend a good hour probably on this to, first you got to get all the documentation ready. And some of you might be proficient and have reports in QuickBooks or Quicken, and all you have to do is just print it out and you're done. And then you can move on to the next step. Some of you probably have to fill out the spreadsheet. Okay. Now you're going to take all that information. Okay. You're going to put your personal expenses. You're going to put your annual budget, okay, from page 14. And then you're going to do some math here, okay? You're going to have your annual budget for personal and then your business. And then you're going to do some division here to find out your tax or multiplication, multiply line 1, okay, line 1, okay, by 0.2 or 0.25, depending on what your income tax bracket is, and get that figure. And then you're going to add lines 1 and 2 to get net income. And then you're going to have your, you already filled this out, your business budget. And then you'll gross commission income needed. You're going to multiply line 3 by line 4. And this is how much money you need to make. Okay. And that way you'll have your goals in mind in the sense of financial. And maybe, you might need to adjust this a little bit. Maybe be more optimistic and need more. This is more analytical. Maybe you get more creative and add a few to that bottom line. And this is pretty cool. So the value of my time, this is really cool where you can, what are your daily hours work? So go through Monday through Sunday and you write down how many hours you work, total hours worked, and then how many weeks of vacation you take, and then total hours. So how many weeks, multiply by those hours, and then you'll have, your total hours worked throughout the year. Okay. So you'll subtract total hours worked minus your vacation hours, and this is how many hours that you actually have available to work. If I'm calculating that correctly, total hours worked. So that's what you've calculated up there, and then how many weeks of vacation you're taking, and then your total hours worked, and then annual time spent in real estate, annual associated income goal, and then you take the time spent in real estate, okay, those hours, and then this is going to tell you how much you make per hour, and then what's your income goal. So you go back up here and you get your income goal, and you're going to put that here, and then you're going to divide by the hours, and then you're going to get what you make per hour, and you're going to see how much you make and if that's a good number or not. And then that'll kind of tell you, maybe I need to adjust on my time. Okay. So then we move on into, getting a little bit more detailed of what type of transactions you're going to do, your listing volume. And this is your past. So you need to identify how many transactions you took, how many, sold, how many listings you took, how many sold, how many sales, any purchases, and then you do the math. So down here, you're gonna now put in your last year's business results, okay? And you're gonna fill that out. So this is pretty self-explanatory, just following this model up here, fill in the blanks, and then you'll identify some key numbers that are gonna help you in your planning. And this will also go back to your goals. So if you table your goals, this will help you when you identify your marketing efforts. And maybe marketing could be a financial area, but it should be part of your plan. So your goal might be how to increase my listings volume this year, and that would be using that goal sheet. Okay. So this is just kind of some thought-provoking things to help you, maybe reach a little bit further. Take a moment and say, if I had an extra $1,000 right now, I would use it for. If I had an extra 5,000, I'd use it for 10,000. I use it for, um, whatever that may be. Paying your debt down, going on a nice vacation. Amount needed just to support my household each month. Amount needed to run my business each month, and cost of a great vacation. So with all this, you're going to end up with your income goal. Okay. What I want plus what I need equals income. So your sources, your average sale price, your average commission. Now we have another spreadsheet that you can use and put all this stuff in there, or you can write it down. It depends on how you want it to complete this, but the spreadsheet will do the math for you, and it's really cool. I think I sent you one from Jared James as well, so I'll probably send you both again when I release this training. So now we come down. This is step 5 and 6. Oops, step 5 and 6. And you're going to take your lifestyle number, the amount you need to fund your life. So that's your actual goal that you created based on those financials. Your average commission per side, so you'll put that down as well. Then you'll fill out your number of closed transactions needed. And then percent of sides that you plan to be listing was, 50% was typical. I think the example showed like 94% or something, but depending on what your ratio is, this is going to tell you what you're going to end up with. Number of closed listing sites needed for your goal, how many listings needed for your goal, number of listing appointments. So now it's numbers higher based on your ratio. What's your conversion rate, number of new closed selling sides needed for your goal, and the number of buyers you need to work with to reach your selling side goal, and number of clients needed to meet next year's goal. And this would be, all your numbers in place. So then now you have some numbers to reach. So these are specific target numbers. How many people do I need to touch next year? And then you can talk about, this is a good analysis tool to identify what worked well, and maybe what didn't work so well. And what you ideally want to identify is what 3 to 5 of these worked well, and then use those to focus on next year. Okay. So you'll complete this in deep detail. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. Again, if some of these things aren't making sense, that we can touch on them in a one-on-one meeting. Okay. And then once you're completed with that, this is where you're going to say, all right, out of those ones that did well, check the boxes. This is where I want to put my energy into. Do I want to, buy more third-party leads? Do online leads? Do I want to be direct mail campaigns? Open houses aren't really effective right now. Door hangers, I don't know if that's a good thing to do right now. It's up to you, but be safe. Sphere of influence, referral network, whatever fits and whatever you do well, just keep doing it. Whatever you didn't do well, maybe not do it. Find something that it resonates with you. If you want to do FSBOs, expired listings, focus on that and put all your energy into it. So pick 3 to 5 And then maybe look at one that you can just hit so hard, and the other ones put the systems in place, and just kind of feed them as needed throughout the year, time in with your goals. And then when we get towards the end here, you know, where would you want more help from us, from other experts? Do you need help with prospecting, time management, personal promotion, database management, uh, geographic farming, how to use Bullseye better, agent website? So you check the boxes and send this to me, where I can help. Um, when you're through learning, you're through. I always like to say, when you stop learning, you're dying. Continue to learn. Continue to. I mean, I'm a sucker for learning. I just keep reading. I read every morning. I have a great Smart Start ritual where I get up early. I do all my necessities and I meditate. Uh, and then I'll work out or do yoga, and then I eat, and then I drink my bulletproof coffee, and I sit down and read and reflect and plan. So I do that every single morning. So between 6 and 9 a.m., that's my time, to reflect on me and get myself ready. That's why I call it a smart start. So something that you might consider. Put together a smart start and then end with a great wind down, make sure that you cut off the technology early and get to bed early and get a good night's sleep. So this is a good tracking system. Put your plan in, like if you want to, how many listings you're going to take, and then you can put your actual and what you do. So this is a good tracking tool to keep you on track. So from your goals, then you're going to put in, okay, I'm just going to have a quick spreadsheet to look at. You can put this on your wall, and that's what you focus on every day. How many appointments do I need to get this week? Okay, fill that out. And then accountability plan, exercise time management, learn to work harder on yourself than you do on your job. So this is kind of a reflection of where are you spending your time? Maybe I can shave some other time away from these things. If you're into sports, watching football or basketball, I mean, that takes 3 to 4 hours out of your day. So maybe cutting some of that off, maybe just watching the highlights, it might be hard to separate, but put your time and energy to stuff that's important. So go through this and write down the activities that you're doing, how many hours you're spending, and see where you can come down here and shave some time. How much time are you spending on personal development? How much time are you spending unproductive hours? That's the hours you just listed up above here. This is what you want to add to it. And then you're going to calculate, what can I give up? Hours available? How could I use time? New hours spent on personal development. So, hey, maybe I shaved off extra 4 hours a week. I'm going to put towards myself. Maybe you get up at 5 a.m. and you spend an hour reading. Maybe you're a real avid reader. I'm not a super avid reader, but I've programmed myself to be an avid reader. I used to get tired, but now I get energized. I can't read for an hour. I read for about 30 minutes. So every morning. And, this is huge. This is where you want to spend more extra time. Have some reflection, some personal development. Always keep improving. Like I said, when you're stop learning, you're dying. No need to retire. You just got to keep moving, keep keep active, keep the brain working, the body. Reading's important. So, um, write down some areas that you want to improve. Uh, what are top 3 books on your reading list that you want to put on the list and read? I have a whole library. If you want some ideas, I'll give you my list. And then here's a good list here. So pick something from here. 3, maybe 3. Some people are reading. Top CEOs are reading 60 books a year. I read maybe 20. So whatever works for you, read a couple. And I'm going to end with this. Okay, this is the last slide. This is one of my slides. I think this is a slide that's very valuable. It's a reflection tool. It's to take your experience with something, whether it's this business plan or a transaction. Uh, Maybe it's as simple as you went out and showed some property to some buyers, and you need to reflect on the experience and figure out what you can, you do. So you take your experience, you write it out. So the transaction, I worked with this couple from Modesto, and we went three, or actually, we the experience was. We were in escrow on another property. The lender failed, and then we had to regroup, and then we found another lender, and then we got back on track. And there was a lot of anxiety because it fell out before. And anyways, the end result was success. We closed, and then what you from the experience, you write down the review, the facts, just the facts, what took place. You make that list, and then you conclude, and you're like, oh man, at the end of the day, this was so rewarding. It was one of my best transactions because it was persistence, perseverance, and we got to the end result, even though it took 3 months and one fallen transaction and loss of a beautiful home to find another home, beautiful home for this couple. And then plan, what could I do differently? Or maybe I did all these things well, and I want to repeat that. I want to put that into a system. This is a great reflection tool. It's called a learning cycle or a learning circle that you can use, to reflect on things and see how you can either improve or add more value. So it could be a problem experience or it could be a successful experience. So now what I want you to do is get back to all the worksheets. You might want to fill out all the financials, go through all those step-by-step tools that we have that we've given you, and then write out those goals. I would recommend having multiple goals, and um, and then set some time for yourself to go through it. Maybe set it down and come back to it. And then once you're completed with it, share it with people. I would love for you to share it with me and let me help you. Let me coach you. Let me help support you to your goals and successes this year. So hopefully you've enjoyed this. This was worth your while, and feel free to make notes and questions for me, and then send them my way. And I look forward to hearing about your plan.